All right, well, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Looks like we have over 100 people in the room. Thanks for taking some time today. We thought just to check, Justin, can you give me a thumbs up if everything's coming across okay? All right. So we wanted to give everybody an update on several items. We've got a pretty broad agenda today, and I'll run through that. We are going to, I'm going to give you a few updates, just some regulatory changes, talk a little about, now that we're getting back to some racing, crew lodging, which we spent some time talking about with the technical commission and some of our officials who've worked on that, and just give you a general event update so you know what's going out there in the world outside of your area. Stuart Lamp, who's our Director of Event Services, is going to spend some time updating everyone on our new post-event report, which we have live now. And you're going to see a updated version, which is going to roll out this week with some additional information. Justin is going to spend some time talking about license renewals and also education. And then Bonnie Walker, who's on our technical commission, is going to get a little bit of update on assignments, particularly cross assignments. And then we're going to open it up to question and answer. Just a few housekeeping things, and everybody is really getting in the groove of things with Zoom. Just remember to stay muted, and we will be using the chat functionality in order to answer some questions. I'm going to do my best to keep up with that and run the program, and Stuart and Justin and I may all step in and answer those questions in chat. So just make sure to pay attention to that. And if we've missed you, we do have a question and answer at the end. Stuart Lamp does have to leave a little before we are done with this for another meeting he's got, and we will try to address any of the post events just after his portion, but anything else we'll try to address later. So with that, feel free to use that chat functionality, and we will get going into the agenda. So first, I wanted to give everyone just a general USA Cycling update. And I've got just a variety of items here. First, I want to talk a little about events. We ran the numbers and went over them again today. So what you're seeing is current as of the middle of this week. We definitely see a trend of events coming back. I think everyone is probably seeing that a bit in their areas. We're still down on 2019. We're not even going to talk about 2020 because that was such an off year. We're sitting at about 35% of where we were at this time in 2019. And when I say this percentage, what we're talking about is what we call rider days. So this is someone getting on a bike and racing or riding on that day in an event sanctioned by us. And these are those numbers that you work with the organizers to fill into the post-event. And this generally lags a few weeks behind the actuality because paperwork needs to be turned in. We are seeing a return to mass start racing. Road is a bit slow compared to 2019. And we're not extremely worried about that at this point because that was anticipated. And as a lot of you know, events have moved generally to the summer and fall. And that 35% number is actually above what we budgeted for this point in the year, knowing that we're still coming out of COVID and will be for quite a while. So we're actually tracking a little better than what we thought we would be. We're doing really well in some particular areas. For instance, mountain biking. We are doing better than we were at this point in 2019. We're 25% up on where we were at this point. So a real strong growth area. Mountain bike events we found in general are a bit easier to run during COVID, a little more easily socially distanced. And I think that's one reason we've also put a lot of emphasis on mountain bike the last couple of years, and we're starting to see some returns on that. If you didn't know, we are working with NICA and the other interscholastic leagues, and we're definitely seeing those interscholastic kids racing in our events, which is exactly what we wanted. And as a reminder, all junior licenses this year are free for 18 and under for USA Cycling. That's a full race license. And we're definitely seeing those numbers jump up. We've actually had really good membership numbers the last month or so too coming back. So signs are positive, but we're not out of the woods yet on events. Just want to talk a little about COVID protocols. A lot of areas are opening up for events, and those protocols are being allowing for more and larger events. I did want to put a plug in there. Some of you may not be able to or may not want to, but we are encouraging vaccinations. It's allowing us to get back to racing and society to start to function. Our department is, I think, all vaccinated at this point, and it's something definitely we encourage you to take a look at. The mask mandate is still in place for officials, and that's something we put in a memo last year. Unless you are very far away and very alone, for instance, you're judge referee up at the top of the banking of the track, long way away from everybody else, we do want you wearing the masks. I will tell you, we put out the initial COVID protocols for our national championships this last week. And it is not only officials, but all the staff, riders up until competition. We're being very strict with that still. And we will be reassessing that as the year moves on, along with some other protocols. But things are looking a little more positive, I think everyone's seeing with COVID. I did want to cover officials housing. This has come up as we've started to see more races and more people traveling overnight. And we had a discussion again with the technical commission, along with several of your peers who have been chief referees of crews where there is an overnight stay. We're really asking you to have a good dialogue with the organizer. If folks are comfortable staying together, if they're vaccinated, we are encouraging that. And again, dialogue is super important here. Have that discussion with your crew and have that discussion with the organizer about what's feasible and what's doable. We want folks to feel safe and comfortable, and also I think everyone realizes that races and organizers are under financial pressure always. So it's trying to alleviate those situations. The folks I've talked to who've dealt with this have basically had that dialogue with both parties. There have been some people who have pre-existing conditions, haven't been able to be vaccinated, and are important to the crew and want to work, and they've worked with the organizer to provide possibly a single room. But they've also identified people on the crew who, they may be spouses, of course, they may be friends who are both vaccinated and are comfortable with that. And they've generally been able to work this out where they're still within the realm of good economics for the organizer and also doing what's best for the crew. And we have had a few people drop from events, mainly because they're not comfortable and still don't want to travel. And that's completely understandable. As we discussed a year ago, that will not be held against you at all, even if it's a national championship. We would rather you be comfortable and not attend and work again in the future. But this has worked out in the cases we've seen it with that good communication. If you do have any issues, feel free to reach out to Justin or myself, and we'll help mitigate those issues. But I hope everybody respects your crew safety, but also, excuse me, the concerns that the organizers always have in regards to spending money on those hotel rooms. We did, just as a story, we sent a message out to all of the staff, which is close to 100 people, for the pro championships in Knoxville, working with our organizing committee. And we had over an 80% return rate that said people were vaccinated and comfortable staying with others. So I think that's generally what we're seeing overall. A few other items. I wanted to give you a little bit of regulation update. I talked earlier in the year that we'd have the regulations out. We've actually pivoted a bit what we were going to start doing, and this came up because I was basically done with updates, and then we had some things thrown at us by the UCI as well as some internal changes. We have decided to move to what I call the UCI model, where we're generally going to do 2 updates a year. So there will no longer be a 2020 rule book or a 2021 rule book. What there will be is a revision number. And the way the UCI handles this, which I think is very efficient, is they have the current regulations by chapter available. And then they have next to that a basically list of all of the changes, and they incorporate those changes in red as we've done in the past. So we're going to do that. What that has meant is I have to go and do quite a bit of scrubbing on the actual layout of the rule book. This will be available in PDF, but we're not going to print copies anymore. That is just not feasible. We've talked about that for 5 years now, and we're finally going to make that change due to logistical reasons. I will work to provide an ability for you all to print this out yourselves. We'll set up the document in such a way that you can do multiple pages and do front and back if you want to. But we would very much encourage you to look at the ability to put this on iPad or similar device. It is searchable, and we've actually set this up where you can, for instance, click on the table of contents and it takes you directly to that section of the rule book electronically. So just want to prepare everybody for that. We will give some notice before rules go into effect as well. So they'll be published and they go into effect, a month later, or whatever that time frame is going to be. So just want to prep everybody for that. I do have the rule changes done, but we're going to have to do some formatting changes, and I'm probably going to work on that again this weekend. Just a little bit on miscellaneous updates. I've gotten quite a few emails on the super tuck, we'll call it, the UCI rotting position. We have decided not to immediately put that into effect. We sort of want to see how that plays out. I think everybody's seen there's already been some movement and changes on the UCI's littering policy, and I feel like that's probably going to happen a bit here, and it's something we'll address in the update later in 2021. The other updates that we have coming out, we did quite a bit of track, which is to align with UCI rules and only impacts the larger events, and a lot of procedural things coming out. But we're going to have a bit of a membership license update for our memberships coming out in June, and we'll make sure and communicate that with you. Also do want to touch on our transgender athlete policy. We do have one, and we've had one for years. We were one of the first national governing bodies to have a policy that was published, aside from whatever's on your driver's license. I'd invite everybody to go take a look at that. It's policy 7. It's housed on the same site or same page as our rules, but you can just type in transgender policy and search for that. Basically, we divide this up. I know this has been in the news a ton lately, which is why I wanted to bring it up, because you will probably get asked questions by athletes and event organizers. We have basically a non-elite versus an elite consideration when we look at how we classify these athletes. For the non-elite level, we use a very broad, more inclusive test, and it's really one of self-selection. What we have the ability to do, which some other sports don't, is to move people around based on upgrades. So if we have an athlete who is doing very well, maybe a transgender athlete who is doing well, we have the ability to move that rotter up in category. We don't want someone winning every bike race, and we don't want someone getting dropped in every bike race. So we have the ability to work within that upgrade criteria. There does come a point where we have what we call the elite level. As an example, that's 2 and 1s and pros in road, track, and cross. It's pros in mountain bike. And at that point, we're following the UCI international regulations, which we do have a link to. And that's where we're looking at things like testosterone levels. And this will be how riders qualify for international competition. And those are mandates. And that we have updated the policy this year. There's been a slight change in those international regulations. And we work with the UCI to have those riders basically present those medical records and get signed off on. This has worked pretty well for us and allows the lower level for us to move riders around. I'll tell you, working with the transgender community, just a couple of things I've learned is no one's going through this to win bike races, first of all, despite what you may read in the media. And 90-something% of the transgender riders who I've worked with who have sort of made this transition and are competing are actually very concerned about being put into a category which is fair to them and fair to other competitors. And there's certainly going to be folks who don't fit into those criteria, but that's really what we've seen locally. Probably the main thing for you all is that this is managed either by us or by the UCI, so we will modify the person's license if they've made this choice in life. It's something that probably out in the field you're going to get asked questions on, but you shouldn't be making decisions on who can compete. And if there's ever a question, please feel free to reach out. This is obviously a very sensitive area, and it's an area where we've done some good work despite what you may be reading lately. And we want to make sure this is done fairly, but also inclusively. So any questions on that, please feel free to reference people back to us. They can contact me or the officials, and we will get them the information they need. But with that in the media so much, I did want to bring that out, let you all know we do have a policy in place. It's one that has been implemented for several years and is frankly working pretty well. And there's always controversy over that, but we feel like we've got a good one in place. All right, I don't see any questions at this point, and I'll be happy to catch up and answer. I'm going to hand this over to Stuart Lamp, and I'll stop sharing my screen in a moment. We're going to go through the post-event. I will give the little bit of warning here. Stuart is going to run this off of our staging platform because we're going to show you some things that will be rolled out in the next week or two. Anytime we're on the staging platform, we get a slight bit nervous that we'll have a Bill Gates Windows blue screen of death kind of thing, but Stuart promised he has a backup. And there may be some test things you see in here that aren't real life, so just keep that in mind. But Stuart, I'm going to stop sharing, and you should be able to take over at this point.
All right, thank you, Chuck. So if everybody will bear with me just a second as I pull this up. All right, so a couple of things here. I want to walk through, just give everybody kind of a heads up on what we're going to do here. So I'm going to walk everyone through how to find an event in the new system and how to access post-event forms. We've tried to make this very easy for everybody, knowing that it's a new system, so we're sending links usually. But for this in particular, and you're going to see my account, if anybody wants to log in as me, go for it. Buyer be warned what you get on the back end. But the item that everybody should have as an official is this link right here. It says permitting/event management. This is where you will go to access a permit in the new platform. And you'll be able to see filter functionality to go through and filter out events. There are certain filters that are not completely built out yet. So one in particular that we have requested it to be fully built out is the ability to search by state for anybody involved. But you can search by the start and the end date of an event. And that way you can find a particular event you're looking for. When we assign you as chief referee, you'll have access to the post-event form and be able to go through the process of submitting the post-event information after the event has started. So the post-event form doesn't become available unless we force it to become available prior to the event starting. It only becomes available once the first date of the event has taken place. So, and for series permits, which I know a lot of you work, but you may not work every single date in a given series, we can assign these out based on the event date. So if you're working a Tuesday night series, but you're only working 2 dates in that series, we can assign you to those 2 specific dates so that you have access to the post-event form for those dates. So it's from that perspective, it's nice because it gives you the flexibility to go in and officials assigners not having to go back and forth to modify who has access to the permit or staff has to. All right, so let's try this here. So I'm going to take you into staging so you can see the post-event form with some new features that we have coming out. Is everybody still seeing this? Are you seeing the event queue? All right, good. So what we're going to do here, I went in and created an event for everybody to see, and this will allow us to go in and see this. So as you can see, this is how everything looks in the event queue. And so if we click on this event right here, the USA Cycling Nationals, and you'll see this information pop up here. We have an event overview. You can look at notifications, documents, any type of history here. Also, the pre-event is where you would go to look for, if you were assigned to an event, you wanted to see certain documentation about the event prior to the event taking place, you'd be able to go in here and see various information about the event. So you could see the registration link, see the event announcement. You can also see right here, this is a new feature where there's a QR code here for one-day licenses. And these can be printed off and used at registration on site, so that all one-days are just purchased by scanning the QR code and doing it on your phone, so that you don't have to go through, and some registration crew is not having to do these on a triplicate form like they've had in the past. So anyway, to get really to the point of this and what we're trying to do here, we're going to click on the post-event form. And I went ahead and entered a lot of this information prior to this so that we wouldn't have to go through some of the minute details with this form. But as you can see right here, once you have access to the form, you'll see you've got the $ and you've got this pencil and pad here. So to make any edits or to update the form, you'll click on the pencil and pad. Once the form loads, you'll go through just like you did in the legacy system. You'll be able to answer questions that pertain to the post event. I went ahead and answered a lot of these. I am going to highlight one item here. So the incidents or occurrence reports, you can fill this out in the new system and upload the forms. So I'm going to click on one here. If you see, at least one report is required once you've uploaded or once you've added that. And it also tells you what are acceptable file types. So if you're taking a picture with your phone, a JPEG will not work, or a PNG file will not work. You'll need to make sure that you save it as a PDF or handle this with either a Word doc of some sort. So once you've handled that, you also will not see this because this is a staff function, but you'll be able to continue down the list here. If you did any rider discipline, for example, you'd be able to click yes here, and then you'd be able to upload the discipline report to the post-event form. Again, we get down to the end here with prizes and awards. And this is, at this point, if you've answered everything with a red asterisk, you can click Save and Continue. And now you go to the portion of the form where you enter the information. On here, we've got two sections here at the top: number of event participants and rider fees. And the number of event participants is basically where you go in and enter what you used to do with the form, where you would enter the total number of riders for an event. Now, I will tell you that we would love to have this information distinguished between pre-registered and on-site registrations. We also know that most of you don't have this information at a given time. So you do not have to fill out this section. Although we would like to have the information, you can leave it blank and it will not impact the ability to submit the post event. As we scroll down, you'll see rider fees. This is where you're going to enter in the information that generates the insurance surcharge. So here I entered in all the numbers, and we're only asking for unique riders. So most of you who've filled out these forms in the past, you would enter in the total number of riders, and then you would enter in any number of duplicates, and you would subtract that, and that's what the organizer would pay for the insurance surcharge. In this system, you don't have to enter in the total number of riders and then subtract the duplicates. You just enter in the total number of unique riders. So you do the math beforehand, and then you enter in the total for that day or that discipline. For example, because this question will likely come up, if you had 2 disciplines on one day, you're going to figure out the unique riders for the one discipline, and you'll figure out the unique riders for the other discipline. You may do an event that everybody does 2 events in one day. So one of these disciplines would show 0. And that is okay. That is the way the insurance surcharge is designed at this point, for you to complete and submit for the organizer to make a payment. We'll also scroll down, you'll see licenses and memberships. This is where you'll enter this information. And again, one thing, this is staging, this is not production. So you'll see that the insurance surcharges and the membership fees are not correct. Don't get caught up in that. It's correct on production. But on here, you'll see you'll be able to enter in the membership info. If you don't sell any standard or premium, which standard membership is good for somebody who's just getting into the sport, racing at the novice or Cat 5 level. The premium membership is for everybody who's a Cat 4 or higher, and there's a price difference there. You would enter in the number here, but if nobody buys that on site, which we're seeing at most events now, because a lot of events are not doing paperwork or on-site registration, you'll leave it at blank. The one-day license, again, there's a difference between on-site and online with Bike Reg. That's because we don't collect the fees from Bike Reg. Bike Reg does not send those directly to us. We need to collect that from the organizer and collect that information here. And then also we've got the collegiate and junior membership. Again, junior memberships, to remind everybody, because I've had this conversation with several organizers and 2 officials already today, those are free. So there's absolutely no reason why juniors should ever buy one day in 2021, because if they buy the annual or take advantage of the annual membership and go through the online purchase path or fill out the form on site and mark the annual box, it's going to be a free membership for the next 12 months for that junior. All right, so scroll down here. This is the new feature I wanted to show everybody. So as most of you know, because I see a lot of the same people on this presentation as we did for our event organizer and insurance presentations earlier this year, we have an organizer initiative that we put together to provide a slight discount if organizers do certain things with their event. And so this is built in, and it automatically deducts the fees from the post-event or from the insurance surcharge post-event for the organizer if they've committed to do certain things that we feel will benefit the sport and help the sport grow. So I'm going to click here on view details. You'll see these badges. These will show up on the event calendar to highlight certain events. And you'll see I selected, when I filled out this permit, I selected all of these different options here to qualify for the discount. If I select 4 of these and execute 4 of these items, then I qualify for 30 cents off per rider in the post event. So if I didn't, then I could check this and my discount goes away because I didn't follow through on the things that I committed to following through on during the permit process. Now, you will have the ability to check this. If you don't, then of course staff will to make sure, but we would appreciate if everybody goes through this process and confirms, because especially for races, you're on site as chief referee, you'll know if they had a novice only or novice race experience or a dedicated junior race for the junior participants, and as well as prize money equality. or if they've used bike reg. We have certain items here that we think that most organizers will fit into and be able to qualify and execute these fairly easily. So, but for the sake of this, I'm going to click it. Once I've done that, then we're good to go. Hold on, gotta move the bar here because I can't hit the X. There we go. So now here at the end, I have my rider surcharge. I have my one-day licenses, my memberships. I have no late fee because we're paying this on time. And now I can go ahead and click on save and pay later. You as the chief referee will always click on save and pay later because the continue to payment button is for the organizer to view and complete. So always, if you get nothing else from this section, always click on save and pay later. The organizer will get a notification once you've clicked on this to go ahead and submit that their post event is ready for payment, and they'll have a link to click on and then go directly in to pay for the post event at that point and review the information. All right, so I'm going to click save and pay later, and now I'm back to the form, and you can go back in and see all of your information now after the fact. All right, Chuck, I know we've got a lot of questions.
Yep, I'll run you through them. I've been keeping track here, and thanks everybody for the comments. Chris asked, who I think is an assigner, how do local assigners go about assigning a chief referee to an event? And I don't know if you'll be able to get to that, Stuart, but you might want to at least explain it.
Yep, absolutely. So as an assigner, you can, because I did test this, I finally was able to get in and test this. You can find events through the permitting/event management tool as an official. And where you go in to assign this is the pre-event tab. Now I'm working on, we do have an officials report. The challenge that I've run into is that some of the data is not correct. And when I say correct, we've got some dates that we're missing. So we're going through and trying to figure that out now before I send out more information. And then somebody tells me, hey, you're missing this. So the referee assignment is where you would go in and assign this. So if I wanted to, I'm going to type in Justin Evans real quick. Hopefully he shows up. This is on staging, so he may not for whatever exactly, because it's not matching up with the license database at this point. But once you type the official's name in, it will pull them up and you'll click select. And for an event like this, you'll be able to select each day. So you could have a different chief ref. Odds are you wouldn't, because this is one permit. You usually have the same chief ref, but you would be able to adjust that and assign a chief ref for different days as needed. That's where the series functionality comes into play and where you would see that. So this referee assignment tab here on the pre-event is where we do that. If you have any issues with assigning a chief referee, you can always reach out to event services at usacycling.org. Valicia watches that like a hawk, and she will take care of that in a heartbeat, or the rest of the team can go in and modify that at any point in time for you.
Yeah, and for any of the assigners, I mean, this doesn't apply to a lot of people, and Chris, thanks for bringing it up. We're happy to work with you individually and make sure you're all set up. The LAs generally handle that function. So Stuart, next question from Sean and Lisa is, the gist of the question is they used to print out the post events or use as a worksheet. Is that something we have available? And if not, I think it's something we can do a cheat sheet for you based on this as a fillable PDF. So Stuart, I'll let you answer.
Yeah. So for the post-event form, we did not build out a printed form for this year. And the reason being is we do have this discount. And with the insurance discount, we did not want to create more confusion than was necessary. Without being able to see certain things on the back end online, you don't know necessarily whether that organizer qualified for the discount or not. And if you collect a check from the organizer and then mail it in and it's not correct, then we play this game of going back and forth. What we've tried to do is get everything done online and make sure that all the information gets submitted. This also helps for a lot of reasons. One, there's better reporting for us to be able to go through and see, you know, who hasn't filled out a form, who has filled out a form. Helps us track a lot of these issues and respond quicker. We're happy to build a form and provide one, but we probably will not publish that and post that online for anybody, any official or organizer to use, just because we don't want to create that confusion with the discounted rates. And that's, you know, it just helps prevent issues with us collecting the correct funds and plan.
So I think what we can do, Sean, and listen, if you, I know you all are volunteering like crazy, if you want to provide some input, I think what we can do is create a crib sheet for everybody where you can enter that information through the day. I know when I'm chief, you know, I actually use the flyer and write down the number of riders per field. I think we can probably all work together to come up with something that helps you, where you don't have to have your computer open remembering this stuff, and then you can go home and enter that. I think is probably what you're looking for. So we'll work on solutions to that. I think it's a great project for Justin to work on. So another question, Stuart, quick one. Are post-event forms required for club races?
If the club race is permitted, yes. So if it's a permitted event, a post-event form is always going to be required for any permitted event, whether that's a you know, a race, it could be a clinic, it can be a fun ride. We require a post-event form for everything to turn in and you know, make sure we capture all the information. So, yep, we've required.
Dot asks, can these still be uploaded through the app? Our new app, which is the only function, will just not have this functionality. You've got to use internet browser right now. It's something we can look at in the future, but right now we're just getting this stable on the web platform. I think I answered the next one for you. Judy asked, there's a size limit on the PDF upload. And I answered this question earlier, Stuart. As I recall, you can upload individual forms instead of combining.
You can order, I mean, upload, not order, upload individual forms to this, so you don't have to combine. Also, if you do have any issues with this, I can compress these files for you, so you can send those into event services or to my email address, and we can make sure that we compress those files to get it in the system. But there are limitations, just like we had in Legacy, because this is an unbelievable, when you think about all the events that we do throughout the year, this is an unbelievable amount of file storage that we try to tackle here and keep in one area.
And I put it in chat, a reminder, we do have a very efficient file size, fillable, e-signable PDF occurrence report available on the resources page. And I'd encourage you to use that. You can fill it out on your device and save it, or on your laptop, and e-sign everything, and you're good to go. And then one thing that it may be addressed further is we are looking at a new rider reporting tool. But right now, if you do have any discipline, particularly something that's a suspension type thing, you can just type that in a Word document, and it has that same upload functionality. If you do have a suspension request, please follow up with a note to officials at usacycling.org would be great. Chris, I think we answered your question. Let's see. Officials still need to collect the rider waivers from the race director to submit with the occurrence reports. Bonnie, if there are paper waivers, yes. If not, then we can we'll grab it through basically bike reg. So if there is no paper waiver, there's no need for you to do it, because we have the ability to go in and grab that if it's through bike reg. Deb, if this is a rolling change, so if someone has a permit in the system, this back end thing will just roll in. No need to do that. I'm going to kick this to you, Stuart. You used it. Can an official save and edit work later without billing the promoter?
Yes, so you can go in. So as I showed everybody, the first page of the form, you can go through that, and you don't have to complete the full form. You can save certain parts and then come back later to fill it out. So you can go through and do that. That is not it's not a problem to do.
Then a couple more. Chris, I think that probably answered your question. Tony asked about late notices for a series. Yes, we hear about that even before you do. And Stuart, has that been fully rectified at this point, the premature late notices?
So we have put in a fix for the late fees, which was triggering the notices. And so we should not receive those if they're not 21 days past the event date or any event date in the series. If they are, then they would receive a notice for that. And we do have, there's another item, some events that had already already been closed out, whether that was canceled or all the information was submitted and received. We do have a bug. This primarily is impacting certain events at a certain time period earlier in the year. So that is being looked at and worked on as well from a fix to try to fix that. If you do see any of these, we've encouraged the organizers to go in and make sure they let us know by forwarding this, because nothing is better than me getting proof of any issue so I can take that back and submit the tickets to have it fixed.
Okay, I skipped one. How do you handle a canceled event, weekly race series? This is from Lowell. He said he had to enter one rider to submit the form.
Lowell, on that, unfortunately, the best thing to do is reach out to myself or Felicia. We can do this with zero and make sure that it goes in and saves, so that if it was canceled, we'll make a note in the comment section for the permit, and we'll make sure that it's listed as zero so that there's no payment due for that.
Right, thanks, Stuart. Couple more, and I'm gonna have to cut Stuart loose, and I'm dangerous to answer these questions. So Gary asked for a permitted event with no assigned chief ref is on the official race permit if there's an official there and another capacity. Gary, we have lots of this because half of our business is non-races where the organizer goes through. So certainly the organizer would be the one to go through, and they do have access to fill these out. So that's a good question. Tony asked a good question about official event notice and then changes. Tony, we've actually got a meeting with Bike Reg tomorrow. I think everyone has seen in the last few years with our calendar, Bike Reg or another online service announcement, the event website, and Facebook. Between all of those, there is a good probability if there's a change, it gets forgotten somewhere. And I think most of us the last few years have probably seen that. I started a master's race going by 3 of the 4 items correctly on time and had a master show up pointing to something else. We are, so our announcement should be the official announcement. We are putting some language and working with Bike Reg and our staff on these, all these various inputs that organizers use to remind them that they need to make sure all of those are reconciled. And Stuart, you want to add in to that what you're looking at?
Yes. So we are looking at adding some protocols in place to eliminate this problem where an organizer goes in after the fact and adds certain things that are unapproved. So we had a meeting yesterday with our IT team to go in and start to work on adding language into certain sections of the event listing where you list these items or add these items, such as your registration link, as well as your event announcement. And that way that we don't have this have this problem, at least where organizers say, I didn't know this, or I didn't read policy 6 because we know that a lot of organizers are new and they're getting into this and they don't know the policy necessarily yet. So we're going to address that. And we've also made a couple of internal changes to start to look at these permits closer from having one person with some particular focus on just road events. And that way it's going to help us address some of these concerns and issues, moving forward for not only, the LAs and the officials involved, but also USA Cycling.
Just a couple more and we'll have to cut Stuart loose. I got a private message from one of our staff who you all know that told me that she would very much appreciate if you actually did pull waivers from the organizer for bike reg events and send those in. All of our goal in life should be to keep Felicia happy because she runs USA Cycling. So I'm going to defer to her and change my stance. If you do have waivers to send in, it would help us tremendously if you could have the organizer pull those and send them in, because it is a bit of a time crunch for us to do that. So they should be able through their interface, and we're mainly talking about bike reg here, to do that. And we can take electronic versions of those that come in. A private message that came to me asking about junior waivers. Electronic waivers are fine for juniors as long as they're through the approved system, which is bike reg right now. And we may be expanding that in the future, and we'll let you know. And last one, Ryan asked about, do assigners need special permissions to add the chief ref? Yes, and we can get that to you if you don't have it already.
Yeah, and it is coming. I will say this is something that we've got to reconcile, but it is on our list. We've got to clean up a few issues with LA mapping that has been a problem because we have LAs that cover multiple states, and the zip code functionality has made things a little bit difficult. I'll put it that way. That's my mild way of saying it. So, so that being said, Ryan, if you do have any, again, if anybody needs a chief referee assigned, you can just notify us at eventservices@usacycling.org if you cannot do it yourself. And I know I've talked to several officials, coordinators in certain areas, and they've been able to go in and assign these in the next gen system already. So just let us know and we can help with that.
Great, thanks, Stuart. And I had a couple questions about how do you get into this, and I think what we'll do is knock out a very simple top line FAQ about what to click on and where to go, and post that on officials resources. And of course, we're recording this, so you can always go back and watch, as I had to do with the UCI Data Rod webinar a couple weeks ago. Last question about e-waivers. So we have bike reg is currently the only pre-reg approved e-waiver. We have a couple others out there for on-site e-waivers. Those should really come in a PDF document to us, is the way we'd prefer to receive those. So Stuart, thanks for jumping on. I know you got to go, and any questions you all have, I mean, I know this is relatively new stuff. Feel free to reach out. We're all going to have to learn this. Most of us had years on the legacy system. This is better, it's more stable, and we definitely have some things we're going to find out as we work through this. Just give us input, and we've already done a pretty good job of modifying this to make it more user friendly. So Stuart, thanks for jumping on, and we'll take it from here. So going back to the main deck.
So Chuck, before you move on, since you had mentioned the RADA reporting tool, I have actually been working on that, so I can just give a quick show of what we've got. So I'm going to stop sharing your screen here.
I was just doing that.
So what we're going to have moving forward is we use a program called Asana, and it's just going to be a form. It's basically glorified Google Forms. So anybody who's used that, it's no different. But we will link these on eventually the permitting system, so you'll see them when you go through the post-event report, but I'm also going to link them once we proof them and get them good to go on the officials pages with resources and everything. But there's going to be 2 links, one for just a standard rider reporting tool, which will replace the old rider reporting tool through Legacy, and you're going to notice that they're very, very similar. Just going to request who you are, who you're submitting for, what event you are working, what type of event it was, the rider's information, and this is obviously the rider reporting tool itself, the discipline given at the event. So did you relegate, disqualify, anything there? Was the rider fined, yes or no? If so, how much? And was the rider notified? Obviously, this is going to replace that very old fine form where some of the riders were never actually notified at the event. Anything else to add? And then you can upload any documentation, whether it's just your full Word document of your disciplines or anything else that you have, whether it's pictures or videos or audio clips or anything that you have there. The one that we've used less is going to be the actual suspension request, and this is what Chuck was mentioning. And this is going to replace just the need to send in an email with a Word document, just trying to collect and ping more information. I will need to add one more question in here that actually says how long are you requesting the rider to be suspended for, and any additional requests. But again, same information, just down at the bottom of put in your full discipline report, what happened, any witness statements that you may have, anything else to add, and then any of the supporting documentation that may be useful to the investigator. Mostly so either myself or Chuck or the investigator has to do very little work to get this information from you as the chief referee from what happened at the event. Because if it's not on paper immediately, trying to rehash this a week or 2 weeks later is going to be pretty difficult. So like I said, we'll make this very available through both the post-event report and also the officials webpage, just for ease of access. And these will both come to Chuck and myself that we'll have access to, and we'll respond once we receive those.
And that's great, Justin. We'll give everybody a little bit of guidance on when to do these. I mean, we don't want one of these for, you gave a warning for a centerline violation. You know, this is sort of the litmus test I would use for this at this point is something that we need to know about a rider for future incidents. And what we see a lot of times is, and we want to build this out a little more robustly in the future, but what we see a lot of times is someone will act up at an event and then they're racing 2 states over and no one has any history or knowledge of that. And this just keeps continuing around the country for folks. And we've had several of these over the last few years. So this sort of replaces the rider reporting tool. It's a little bit of a, I think it's going to work well, but it's a little bit of a makeshift tool until we are able to rebuild some of those legacy tools in the future. And if you've got just real basic stuff you want to put in a discipline report, you can just put it in a Word doc and you can upload that. Chris asked about that form. No, it will not autofill at this point. It's not tied to our database. So you'll have to, if you don't know a rider number or license, you can just type those notes in there. But the more information, the better is what we're looking for here. And we've had an unfortunate number of investigations the last 2 months. Something about people being cooped up for a year and then being released into the wild has resulted in some investigations. And we have had to go chasing some information. And we've also had just some stuff submitted to us that didn't get cleanly to us, which is our fault. So we're trying to rectify that a bit. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Stuart.
And Tony, to answer your question, no, as Chuck mentioned, it's not going to be linked to our database. This is a really quick and ugly tool to replace the need for our IT staff to have to create something else right now. But hopefully in the future, our IT team will be able to create a tool that does link in, that has the access to go through our regulations and know when you're searching 8A5A, it's going to know exactly what 8A5A is, just like the old rider reporting tool does. But right now it would be completely text-based and you would just have to type that information in for us.
Great, thanks. I'm going to turn it over to Justin. Justin, I will drive for you. We've got 5 minutes left. We can probably run a little bit over, but people have asked great questions. So it's been a good use of time. So Justin, I'll let you walk through the rest.
Yep. So thanks, Chuck. My stuff will be really simple. I mean, a lot of this was covered through the officials update that went out on Friday evening. So to start with, the changes that we've previously mentioned is that partially due to COVID, but it's also something that has been a discussion across all memberships, whether it's officials license or racing licenses, is the expiration dates on our officials license, excluding international commissaires due to the UCI requirements. But if you've not renewed your officials license and you have not heard for 2021 and beyond, the day that you renew, that license will be valid for 365 days, opposed to automatically expiring on December 31st of that year. So that is just a benefit of renewing later on in the year. If you typically don't work until the summer, you can purchase that license in the summer, and then it will be valid for that entire year, opposed to it then just expiring at the end of the year. And if you decide to work early in the next year, then you'd have to buy a new license. So that's a benefit there. We did make a change where you can renew your license without having to complete the requirements up front. But if you do renew without the Safe Sport background and NVRs, you will be auto-pinned through the system. So you will have to complete those before you can work. But it is a way to go ahead and start the process and start getting those automated emails from us that have all the links in it. So Safe Sport is a required every year piece if you're a new official or have never completed the Safe Sport requirement in the past, which hopefully all of you have. The first year is just a full, roughly hour-long training course, and then subsequent years is just a 15-ish minute module that the Safe Sport program retools every year to make sure that the hot topics are touched on. The criminal background check is still and always has been an every 2-year process, as well as the NVR for moto refs and other officials who drive. With the category and requirements verification, as everybody knows, we've had some IT issues across the board that have affected every facet of the organization. Please take a look at your accounts and verify that your officials categories are correct. At some point, if you renewed, regardless of what category you were, everybody was given an international commissaire license. And while that might be pretty cool to you right now, I'm pretty sure when it comes time to renew next year, you're not going to enjoy the $150 renewal price. So you probably go ahead and reach out to us and we'll get that fixed for you. And the same goes for the requirements of Safe Sport background and MVR. Some of those APIs from IT have actually broken in the past couple of days. So please just confirm that if you have completed the Safe Sport requirements, and really at any point in time in 2021, that if it's not showing in your account, to go ahead and push those through to officials@usacycling.org, and I can get those updated. Same to be said with the background check and NVRs. I can just go into the NCSI system and verify those dates. So just send if.
Justin, I want to add in here, this has been super frustrating for us because we do not mind doing it, but we have to answer all of your emails and go in and manually fix categories and background checks and MVR status, and it is no fun for us to do either. So I'll just personally say I appreciate everybody's patience. It has been frustrating for us. It has gotten better, and we've got some new staff in who are pretty confident in their ability to get this fixed. But it's not only been officials licenses, it's also impacting our other membership licenses, and it's been something we've been battling since the beginning of the year, since mid-December last year. So just bear with us, and we will do our best to provide you all good customer service. We don't want to have to do that. We want it to be seamless on the front end, but please feel free, if you have any of these issues, to reach out to me or Justin through that officials website. So I do want to address one quick question that came up, Justin. Chris asked, do volunteer support vehicle drivers have to get a USAC drive license and additional MVR? No, the USAC domestic drive license is a tool we use for events that require a license in order to participate, i.e. a UCI event where every driver has to have a license. it was the cheapest way we could fulfill that UCI obligation. And there's a very few events that actually require that. So it's not a requirement for a volunteer to drive like a SAG or a support vehicle at an event. I'll let you take over, Justin, sorry.
And there's also been a couple of issues on how to renew. Some people incorrectly renewed their quote unquote race license or race membership, mostly due to just some inaccuracies through the My Account function. But if you go into your account and you think that you paid for your official's license and actually realize that you have a racing license, let us know. But on the next 2 pages, just got a couple of screenshots that will show you the 2 quick and easy ways to renew your license. So if you have any questions attached to that document with the officials update from Friday night is a complete README doc on how to go through the entire process to find all the links to include Safe Sport background and NVRs. And it will include all the instructions of if something's not showing up, what do I do? If I can't get my Safe Sport to show up, what do I do? If I'm having Safe Sport issues, what do I do? So all of that information is included, and we'll also get that attached to the officials resource page for easy finding moving forward. So if you just go back 1 button or 1 page, Chuck. So this is the main USA Cycling officials page, just at the top to the right of the logo. If you just hover over Join Us, and then there on the right side under technical programs, if you click on officials, that's the quickest and easiest way to navigate to just the officials homepage. But for the renewal cycle, as soon as you go to the officials homepage, the very first thing you see is this big picture of, if anybody knows who that is, I'd love to actually say hello, since I see them every day. And
I'm saying it's Mr. Lyons would be my guess.
Brent Lyons, if you're on, let me know if that's your right arm. But with Bonnie says Steve Cruz. Steve, is it your arm? You'll have to let us know. But just click here to renew, and it will take you directly to the renewal page. You just have to log in, and it will go through the process. I didn't grab a picture of that because it's just as soon as you get there, you know you're on it. But for anybody who serves other functions within USA Cycling that hold a technical license, so UCI supports, mechanics, coaches, those licenses are renewed at that same page as well. So it's just the technical license renewal page. So we're good there. On to education, obviously a hot topic for everybody who's been an official for a while and wants to continually move up. We are actively collecting interest for a Motor C course that Chuck will host virtually. Right now, I believe we have about 6 people. We're hoping for a few more. So if you have any interest or know of anybody who may be interested in taking that Motor C course, which would also provide you the passenger certification if you don't hold a motorcycle driving license, just let us know so we can get you added to that course. We're hoping to host that pretty soon now that we're getting some good interest in that. The Mountain A, I currently have 2 officials from the Midwest going through that, the new and improved Mountain Bike A module system through the learning management system that we created. We have, it's still an old module system that has been updated, but the idea is, opposed to hosting Mountain Bike A courses as often as we typically have Road A courses, is to push our officials through this module system, which is self-graded through the entire process. It's removed the requirement for signatures from chief referees that you work under. But once this has gone through and been passed, we'll work to get you to either a UCI event here in the US or one of our national championships as a paid apprentice to work. And basically that becomes your evaluation process to avoid having to go to a class. So those 2 officials going through it now are providing some feedback to me since they are the first 2 to actually see it outside of myself. So if anybody else has any interest and would like to go through it in its rough state now, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to get you the link for that. And then I would just ask that you provide any feedback and thoughts as you go through it. Road A, we were planning on doing a Road A course at Pro Road, which is in just over a month. But obviously due to COVID and some other issues, we have decided to push that back. but we are still planning on hosting an in-person Road A course. So if you have interest, please go ahead and just let us know so we can get you added to that list and start the planning process for that. But we are planning on an in-person course. I'll actually skip to the second one first. Chuck's going to add in some more information to the top piece, but as of right now, we are not planning on hosting a road, track, or mountain bike elite national commissary course in the US. If we do have enough interest from the virtual courses that we'll touch on in a minute, we will attempt to host a road elite national course much later in the year, if not very early 2022. But we'll start collecting some interest there. But we did host 2 elite national courses for mountain bike in the last 3 years. And I believe the last track course was held in 2019 in Colorado Springs. So if you have any interest in those 3 courses, go ahead and let us know again, so we can just start collecting that interest there. Lastly, on the virtual ENC courses, due to the COVID pandemic, the UCI has created virtual elite national courses that they're going to host this summer and fall across all disciplines. Due to their virtual nature, they are wanting to limit them in participation, just like they would for an in-person course. The UCI has given us the opportunity to have pretty much a guaranteed 1 spot per course, with the additional option of having a second if one of those is a female commissaire. 2 spots are not going to be guaranteed, even if one of those is female, but they have requested us to pass along that information if they have it. So the requirements will be the same across all of the courses as they always have been. We'll go ahead and create the educational requirement documents that we have for most of our in-person courses and get those posted just so everybody can see. Dot just asked for elite national courses. Chuck, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there are age requirements for elite national courses, only international.
Yeah, there's not now. There will probably be a change to the UCI regulations here shortly, but currently there's not.
Okay. So if you have any interest in those, go ahead and just send over an email, and then if you have any questions on the requirements of races worked, category level, we can answer those questions, or just feel free to take a look at the old applications that have been passed around in the past.
Yeah, one thing to note on that, the UCI says you need to be a national commissary to take that. That's what we consider a category A. We do have a national commissaire sort of grandfathered category, which a lot of people are, but we're using that A category from here out moving forward to qualify for the ENC course. We tend to have a lot more categories than other countries do, and our A is a NatCom in a lot of other countries. So I would just stress to everybody, if you are interested in taking one of these and you qualify, get your information in to Justin at that official's email ASAP. And if we have too many people interested, the technical commission will evaluate sort of who's going to go, as we do with our internationals. And I would say not to be too freaked out if you miss out on the opportunity. We do want to teach in-person ENC courses. The UCI is not doing any themselves this year due to COVID, and we felt like we would follow along with that. But we have talked to Canada, particularly about a road one coming up. So as soon as that's really feasible, we are going to look at it. 2 others I wanted to hit on. We had a meeting of the UCI Commissary Commission last week. There is going to be a virtual national commissary course taught in multiple disciplines, and some of you may have seen they sort of put a test of that out. We're going to evaluate how that fits in and whether we make those people A's, sort of what's on top of it. They should have that announced out here in the next few weeks, and we'll take a look at it and decide what we want to do. That will be sort of I don't want to have the term sound negative, but a pay to play. You're going to pay to take it on your own. It's sort of study on your own and go through it on your own. And then you will be virtually tested on it and have so many chances to get through it. And there's a window you can do that in. And we just have to determine how we're going to do that. We will definitely have some kind of check off for final certification, like Justin mentioned with the mountain bike A. And that's all relatively new stuff that that no one else knows now. So the last thing is, I had promised we would do a reevaluate the motor A. We've just not been able to get to that. And I've asked Duke Spinelli to help out with that, who's on here. The holdup is not his fault, it's my fault. So we will proceed with taking a look at that and have some more info. It's just one of those things we've not been able to get to, unfortunately, with everything else going on. So got a lot going, and hope you all take advantage of some of the education opportunities we've got coming up. Justin, anything else from your end?
Nope, I think that's it.
Great. Bonnie, you want to do a real quick update on where we are with assignments?
Yeah, sure. So I think we've had a lot of people asking, well, not a lot, but more than a few asking about the cross assignments and when those were going to be coming out. So we wanted to give you guys an update. We expect to solicit your interest soon in working those events. We're tentatively waiting on the UCI to assign the UCI presidents for those events. And once we have those confirmed, then we will move forward on our side. So what will happen is we are planning to utilize the Google form to collect your interest the same as we've done in the past. One question for Chuck would be, and I don't know the answer to this, with these being UCI events, do you anticipate kind of going forward with needing like negative PCR tests prior to arrival and that type of stuff? Or
Yeah, that's a good question, Bonnie. We are currently, the UCI is requiring officials working UCI tests or working UCI events on the UCI calendar to have a negative PCR test 72 hours before. We're actually going to be requiring that for the first couple of national championships in June, and we briefed the chiefs on that this week, and they'll be talking to the crews, and we're going to make this super easy as we can for folks. The UCI in discussions with them, they're like, we are constantly reevaluating what those requirements will be. We are way ahead of the rest of the world in vaccination rates, which is a good thing. When I was talking to UCI last week, they were very jealous of the fact I was in my second and they hadn't gotten their first. Keep in mind of where the decisions are made are based in other parts of the world, and they have to handle 134 federations. So I would expect that would probably stay in place through at least the summer, and we'll know more as they update us on those requirements going to the fall. But my gut tells me probably going to be required, at least for the first part of the cross season. And okay, we have some great resources to help you out with that. We're going to be talking to the officials that are impacted for our nationals with.
Okay, great. So that's it from cross. So again, I think UCI is working on their president list. Once those are confirmed, then we'll move forward and send this out. Our stuff's ready to go. We just need to know who's been assigned by the UCI. Real quick on track, we did have 3 additional UCI races come onto the calendar for T-Town later this summer. We sent out requests to Category A and higher track officials this week, and the reason we only did track or Cat A and above is because we're only assigning the 4 principal positions, and the UCI requires a certain level to be in those roles, and then all of the underlying or supportive positions, the assistant refs, assistant judges, will be assigned locally. So we're trying to help keep costs down there. Also, in addition, you probably have seen the Elite Junior and Para Track Nationals, which were supposed to be at the Velo Center in Carson in July, has been moved. They have been moved to T-Town as well, with a slight shift in date by maybe 1 week. Unfortunately, given the move to the other side of the country, we had to make some tough decisions to reassign the assistant referees positions and try to fill those locally as well. So everybody's been notified who that was affected, and we are currently working on filling those assignments from the East Coast perspective. And then really the only thing on road to update you guys on is there's a lot of the spring races that actually move to the fall. And with those events moving around, we're working to replace some of the spots on the crew. So we're kind of working through those as they come in. And unfortunately, we've had more than several events that have been canceled. So again, a lot of you guys on this call have been affected by those cancellations. And so we appreciate your patience as we kind of figure out what this 2021 is going to hold for us.
Great, thanks, Bonnie. I do want to thank Bonnie and the NTC for really stepping in and helping with the assignments. It's taken a lot of burden off our shortened staff, and it's been a lot of work with all the changes and stuff, and definitely appreciate all the officials who've been impacted by this. I think it's probably hit all of us at some point or another of an event being canceled or moved or whatnot. And hopefully we stabilize a little bit next year and have a little cleaner and easier time of things. So thanks, Bonnie.
You're welcome.
Just want to open it up for Q&A, and feel free to use the chat functionality. We're running a little over, but I think it's been productive. And if you do need to unmute for whatever reason, go ahead and do that. We'll try not to step over each other, but got 135 people on, which is great. And be here to answer any questions for a minute. I'll give people a minute to type instead of bailing right now and going on a bike ride. So. All right, while anybody's typing, if you do know anybody who missed out on this, please encourage them in about a week to get this up on the officials resource page. I made a couple notes here. We referenced when we looked at the post event, some of those new business terms we had where people, if they do certain types of events, for instance, the women's only or juniors only, they get a discount. We do have an FAQ on that and the particulars of each of them. Justin, if we can make sure we get that up on the officials resource page, and we'll send a link out in the next update, just give you an idea what to look for out there. And we don't want you all to have a heavy thumb on organizers for this, but you're really our eyes and ears out there. So Tony asked about the rider discipline reports. Tony, again, that's not automated at this point. It's just a smoother way for us to get information. And it's something that we are going to build a tool for in the future, but I think everybody realizes we have a lot of very priority IT challenges right now. Our results and ranking system needs a major overhaul and update, which we've got an RFP out. We need to clean up our membership pathway, and we spend a lot of time on permitting. So we're really having to prioritize, and we're going to put this a little lower on the triage scale right now, but we did want to put something in there in the meantime. All right, no other questions. We really appreciate everybody's time. We've got, I think, a third of our officials core on the call today, which is great. Feel free to reach out to us with any questions and use that officials email. Multiple people monitor that, and you're probably going to be mainly talking to Justin. But feel free to use that with any questions or any recommendations, and we'd appreciate it. I'm going to stop recording. Sorry.
Before you go, just the adjudication process of those discipline reports. I mean, once you guys have made a decision, I know Justin's been real good about emailing or calling me, but that's kind of arduous on him. And I think just to be able to find a point where we find what those have been. If a rider has something found against him and he goes to a different race, how are you supposed to know? I mean, if you should exclude him from being able to race.
Yeah, John, that's a good question. I'll give you the quick 60-second. So as you all remember from your Cat 4 or Cat C officials class, you can't suspend people. There's a process under our policy 3 to do that. There's several ways to initiate that. And I know John has been involved in one where he provided us some information recently. We take that, we assign an independent investigator. They interview everyone involved who they feel they need to, and they provide a recommendation back to us based on what they find out and what the rules are. And then we will take action against the rider, which may be nothing, and it may be a suspension. If a rider is suspended, that goes into basically the database immediately, and that rider will show up with a suspension in Bike Reg, in the rider lookup tool, any of that. They will show as suspended on their account for the term that we did. So if we do 15 days, we put a start date and end date on that, and they go in and see that suspension, and that is different from being pended. It will show as a suspension. So if you do a rider lookup, it will show that, and it should not allow them to, or we'll throw an alert at least if they try to register using anybody that uses our data. So John, does that help?
Yes, we had some riders in our last race that they raced. They were able to register on Bike Reg, but because everything was through Bike Reg, but they actually didn't have an active license. They had not renewed.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if they do get suspended, does it flag differently?
It will flag differently, and that is an issue. And again, we've got to meet with Bike Reg tomorrow. It will throw an alert for the organizer if someone's license is showing an inappropriate, whether that's pended, not renewed. We are talking to Bike Reg about giving organizers the ability to tighten that up and not allow them to register. The reason we allow it now is just for business reasons, but it will be it will definitely throw an alert. And I think we all know that some organizers are more conscientious about preventing people who are pended or don't have a license from racing than others. And I'll just sort of leave it at that. Matt said, idea when we no longer have to reach out to check every official we assign is eligible. Matt, that should actually show in permitting when you assign them, and that new tool will show if they're pended. And you can, well, that'd be the chief. You can, anyone can look up, any of you can look up other officials and check their status. And that is the one reason Justin went through that. My feeling is most of our officials probably just don't realize we're not trying to game the system on it. The Frolings asked about Bike Reg updates once a week. Actually, this is part of the discussion tomorrow. It's a live update. So anytime the organizer goes in, they have a direct line into our database. So the moment we change something, there's the ability for them and the organizer to see that. There seems to be some kind of disconnect to why that's not working right now, and that's what we're going to meet with them tomorrow, but that availability is there. So I hope that helped you all. It's the functionality is there, but there appears to be a bug, I think, on their side right now that we're going to discuss tomorrow. So, all right, good questions. All right, with that, I think we'll end it. And again, feel free to provide us any feedback. Appreciate getting it. And we'll call tonight. So thanks for being on, and this will be up in about a week.